Alright everybody, welcome to the channel and welcome to a one of a 6-part series for Wartales, where I'm kind of going to just really go over and talk about all of the classes, kind of ways how to play them, or how I play them at least, best ways to use them both inside of the fighting map and then on the world map, and their professions, and just a few little things here and there to try to help direct how you want to be using each of the different classes in the best way that works for me. Whenever I play on the hardest difficulty, and this is usually what I do as just a staple to make it so it works as best as I can. Now obviously there'll be other ways that you can go about these classes, how you can use them, how you build them, what stats you go on, so on and so forth. Obviously it's up to you how you want to use them, but if you're looking for a way that for sure works and you can kind of build your own build around, this is going to be one of the 6 videos that'll help you. So with that being said, we can just go ahead and get into the first one. The next class we can look at is going to be your archer. And the archer is an interesting class because it is one of the only ones that are going to be able to have consistent range attacks. Some units can throw stuff, but the archer is going to be the only one that attacks from afar. So obviously with that, you just have a bow, and it takes both hands, no changing weapons, that's what it is. You do get the ability to start with aim, which gives you deafness, which makes it so your attack range is doubled and your precision is enhanced. I don't know how much it enhances it. I haven't gone down to the fine details of that, but it makes it so your your shots are pretty accurate. You can also have run, which is also another really good one. If your archer gets caught in melee, they're going to be even worse off than the ranger is. The ranger can still attack with their dagger. The archer has to just punch now. So even early game, even if you're on easy, even if your archer is strong, you're only doing, like, best case scenario 5 damage. So your archer becomes completely obsolete and useless if you ever get caught in melee. So run is a good one to have if you're kind of struggling with positioning your unit, or you feel like they get caught out a lot, or you feel like you're going to be fighting really big groups, or you're going to have a small party, whatever it might be, run could be helpful. I really like to go first aid because, as I stated, your archer will not be in melee. If you're putting your archer in melee, you're not using your archer right. So having first aid, I'm usually always putting him behind my swordsman, and that way he's got cover. We'll see some traits later on in the video here why it's good to have him next to somebody, and if you're next to somebody you can heal them. So why would you not have the person who's always going to be next to somebody have the capability to heal somebody that they're next to? It just makes the most sense for me. And then, you know, that's what we've got there. All 3 of these are honestly really good to have. It's just what you want your playstyle to be. I prefer first aid, that's just me. Traits kind of go however you want to. Again, you know, there's a few different ones. I probably go bloodthirsty would be mine. Basically do everything. I wouldn't do brawny, just absolutely don't do strong. Everything else kind of works. Avoid thick-skinned again, but kind of do what you want with it there. And your archer should be pretty much set up at that point. Alright, here we can go ahead and we can look at our archer. Now, the archer is a unique class because there are a couple really viable builds that you can go. So I'm going to go over those here and kind of discuss them a little bit. Obviously, what I build isn't the correct one because there are multiple really viable ones. To the point where having 2 archers, maybe even sometimes 3, to be honest, might actually be worth it. So the first thing that we will go ahead and look over is we will go and look at our skills that we have. Now, first, we have the same thing. We have Valorous Audacity. When you end your turn next to an enemy and non-engaged, you gain 1 point. Not that great because your archer is like your weakest one, as we already talked about. You don't want him anywhere near the front lines. If you're up on the front lines and you're, you know, close to enemies where you're standing next to them, you're in the wrong spot. It's just not where you want to go. Now, Valorous Victory definitely can be one that you can go. Anytime you get a kill, you gain 1 Valor point. Now, I think that for main attribute-wise, he's got 34 dexterity. I think right now that might be my highest of main attributes for anybody. So he's doing a lot of damage. So this definitely can be the one. And you can kill an obscene amount of people with the archer in one turn based on how your build goes. And then finally, you have Valor as support. Now, because my archer has the healing, the first aid, I have him, or because I want my archer to have first aid, I should say, I have him with support because I'm going to be standing behind a teammate shooting arrows, and I'm behind a teammate because I want the teammate to engage instead of my archer. So it just kind of makes sense to have this because you don't want your archer anywhere near the front line. Now you could go Valor's Victory. It's about a 50-50. Both of these are really, really good and can definitely work. This one is a staple and guarantees that you get one every single time. This one is a bit more of a gamble because you have to kill enemies, but you can get much more. You can get up to 3 or 4 Valor a turn with your archer if he's your kind of main damage dealer. So it's ultimately based on how you want to play. Now your first of your traits is going to be Hunter. Now what this does is you shoot this enemy, it knocks them back 2 meters, and you apply slowdown, which means their movement speed is half. Which, this is a pretty good utility-based one, honestly. Because not only do you push the enemy away, you make it harder for them to get to you. Now, based on any way you want to look at it, that's just really, really strong. It's one of the 2 better ones here. I don't have a preference. Sometimes I go Hunter, sometimes I go Infantryman. I'm just kind of torn. Like, I think they're both really good. It just, again, depends on how you want to play. If you want to focus on just like outputting, more damage on a single target, recoil shot's probably better. Then you have Beastmaster, which gives you attack, which, in my opinion, this is the worst of the 3. All allied animals next to the target attack them with an attack of opportunity. Now, the reason why I say that this one isn't that good is because you get it at level 3, which means relatively early on in the game. Chances are you don't have a lot of animals, so you can't utilize it at all. And then on top of that, it's not until level 5 that you can control the animals. And so this is only good if you decide that you wanna bring the zoo with you. If you're gonna have a lot of animals, okay, Beastmaster is probably the way to go, honestly. If you're only gonna have 1, maybe 2 animals, probably don't need Beastmaster. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're, using a level up point into something that you're not going to utilize very much. So attack is only good if you are going to have a very heavily oriented beast army. Then you have Infantrymen. So what you do is you target a specific area and you perform an attack of opportunity against 3 enemies that cross. So basically, you ready a skill, and 3 enemies that walk into that triangle that you set up will get attacked. Now, you're only going to attack one of them one time. All 3 of them aren't going to attack one person if he's running around in a circle for whatever reason. You're only going to attack 3 different people. So what I like to do is I like to try to get enemies into small, narrow passages and put my archer directly behind my swordsman and set up barrage. And you just get a bunch of attacks. You do a lot of damage with this. 110% of strength or dexterity. So I have 34 dexterity. So 110%, I'm doing like 36 to 37, maybe even 38 damage with each arrow. That is, this one ability, if I'm using it entirely, I'm doing upwards of 100 damage if I don't crit. If I crit, even more. So it's a lot of damage right now that I'm putting out. So I really, really like it, because it lets me play a little bit more defensive. It lets me group up enemies more, and as well as it's also a utility-based thing, while also being, it's offensive, it's defensive, and it's utility-based. It's just really, really good. It's one of the better skills in the game, in my opinion. It's just really good to have all around. Now your second passive is going to be at level 5, Reinforced Arrows. Each time this unit lands a critical hit, you apply bleeding. Now, bleeding 20% of their max HP at the end of their turn definitely can work. As you can see, I already have 25% critical hit on my archer. You're landing a decent amount of critical hits, so bleeding definitely can do some work. The only issue that's with that is it's a little bit of a gamble. So, you kind of have to pick and choose what you want. It's obviously still really, really good, and you can go it if you're going a crit heavy build. If you're going a crit heavy build with your archer, this ability is broken. It's so good. However, I think the other abilities are better, including precision. Every 2 attacks applies vulnerability, which basically the next attack suffered is going to be a critical hit. So basically you can attack twice, and then your third attack is for sure going to crit, which, I mean, again, is just really, really good. If you're not going a critical hit build, this one could be for you, because then it'll ensure that you're getting critical hits. So it's just a nice one to have. There's not much to say about it. It's a pretty strong staple build to have. And then, of course, you have Beastmaster, which this allows you to control animals in battle. If you were going animals, even if you have one animal, you basically need to have Beastmaster, because otherwise it becomes a absolute mess trying to work with these animals. Animals take up more space on the map. They just run around and do whatever they want. They attack the wrong targets. They block certain paths. They put themselves in dumb positions. They're probably going to get themselves killed. It's tough to deal with. Now, the reason why I have Beastmaster on here, or Beast Mastery, I should say, and not Beastmaster, is because I found a bow that I really liked that worked with animals, and I was testing out certain things with the animals during my playthrough, and it didn't work out how I wanted it to be honest. It kind of failed. So now I'm kind of stuck with this. However, I think I'm going to get a couple animals to have just to make up for me having this Beast Mastery. If I wasn't using Beast Mastery, I would be using Precision. But, you know, it is what it is, and we're going to make it work. Level 8, you have Taming Arrow. Applies Fury to the target animal. So, basically, you pick an animal and they do 50% more damage. Now, some animals do more damage than others. If you have a horse or a boar, the Taming Arrow is probably not that great. If you have a wolf or a bear, Taming Arrow probably going to work out pretty well. Going to do a lot of damage with that. So, again, you only get Taming Arrow, in my opinion, if you have a very, very animal-heavy army. Otherwise, it's just kind of, it's kind of weird to use. Then you have Thrill of the Hunt. Each attack executed at a distance of more than 8 meters grants 1 range. This is probably when I'm going to go, because my archer is going to be attacking from far anyway. It's stackable, so, you know, can get, you know, multiple damage each turn. And I'm going to see if it works with Barrage, because if it works with Barrage, I do an attack, I do my 3 attacks of opportunity, and now, that's 4 attacks, I 20% more damage based off of that. I don't know if it does. I'm not saying it does, but I need to find out for myself if it does. And if it does, this is going to do an absurd amount of damage, and I am going to be just putting people down with every single arrow that's fired. It's going to do a lot of damage. Next, we have Animal Affinity. Now, this is another one that you only get if you have well, you don't necessarily need a lot of animals. You can actually do this if you have a smaller amount of animals, because at the start of battle, you gain 1 allied animal passive skill. Now, if you have a bear, a boar, a wolf, a horse, the croc swine or whatever they're called, the mosquitoes, whatever, the blood mosquitoes, I don't know what they're called, I can't remember. If you have one of each, there's like 12 different passes going around. Some of them aren't going to be good, because some of them are like giving you HP and stuff like that. Not that great. But let's say you have just one, and it, you know, you heal when you kill somebody, or, you know, you do more damage, or whatever it might be. That would be good to have, right? But that's only if you have like one. If you have all sorts of different animals, I would not go Animal Affinity. Obviously, going Taming Arrow is far better. Or, I mean, even Thrill of the Hunt isn't too bad. But this one is a very, very specific scenario that you get this one. It can be good, but it also can be kind of useless. Because, again, if you give your archer more HP, but that doesn't do anything. Your archer's not on the front line. Your archer shouldn't be getting hit. There's just not much you're doing with it. It's just kind of a weird situation. Then, lastly, we have level 10. Equip the second bow. Now, this can be good if you want to have a fire arrow or a fire bow, right? And you see that there are enemies that are grouped up really, really well, and you realize, like, hey, this is a really, really good time to get burning on them. Or you want the one bow that knocks enemies back, because there is one that kind of works similar to recoil shot, but it doesn't cost a valor point. Okay, maybe you can swap to that one. Or, you know, you've got one where if you crit, you get to attack again. You know, maybe you want that. It all depends on how you want to set up this. This is only good if you have a special idea in mind. If you're just getting this because you're like, oh, 2 bows, it's probably not going to work as well as you think it will. You're going to need to put a little bit of thought into it. Next, you have Anticipation. When this unit is attacked, they have a 50% chance to not become engaged and to deal an attack of opportunity. So basically, if an enemy does get to you, there's a 50% chance that you won't be locked down and that you'll also get to attack them. Now, this can be good, mostly because if an enemy is, they've got the thing where they've got the double movement because of their commander, they might just run right for your archer. Who knows, depending on how your forces are set up, they might do that. So this could be good to have if you feel like there are a lot of enemies and you really can't get your archer in a good position. So this could be something that's definitely worth it. Or there's Lone Wolf. As long as there are no allied units within 5 meters, this unit gains the Lone Wolf status, which damage increased by 10 and damage taken reduced by 10. Now the damage increased by 10% is really good, because what you can do is, my idea is to only utilize half of this. I would attack from afar and get the damage increase, and then I would run next to an enemy or to an ally, so I would get Valor support. So I'm losing this damage taken reduction by 10%, so I'm only utilizing half of Lone Wolf. But that's because how I play. If you watch any of the videos and my playthrough that's on the channel right now, my archer is only like one case they've ever been caught out in the open and engaged. I do not let my archer get near enemies, and the only reason why that was is because it was the Tomb of Ancients, and they attack out of the darkness where I can't see them, so they just get the jump on me. I do not let my archer anywhere near the front lines because it's just the exact opposite of how you want to play. So Lone Wolf kind of works with what I want. Unfortunately, it's only half utilized, but it still works really, really well in what I'm looking for. And then the final thing here that we have that we can look at is their profession. Now, again, this is another one where you want to get a critical hit from Tinkerer or Thief, or the dexterity from Thief or Alchemist. Now, either of these are good, or any of these three are really good. Thief is really, really good just because you get dexterity, which gives you more damage, and critical hit, which, as we saw with some of the abilities, works really well with this class. So you need dexterity for damage, but you also need critical hits for some of the abilities to work. So Thief is, in my opinion, the best one to go, but if you decided to go Alchemist or Tinkerer, I don't think it's bad by any means. I think you could still make it work. I've done this multiple times. For the longest time, up until this playthrough, my archer was actually my Alchemist, and my ranger was my Thief. But this playthrough, I decided I wanted to test it up a little bit and change it and see how it worked, and I swapped them around, and now my archer is my Thief. So, again, there's no like right or wrong thing. As long as you're not picking like Cook or Bard or Blacksmith, you're fine. You do not pick any of them that have strength. You could pick Constitution, but they're better for your other classes. And then you can go Scholar or Angler for more willpower, which definitely does help. As you can see, my archer doesn't have enough willpower, so when I level up, I have to start putting some in there for him. But again, the archer is kind of being used as a damage dealer, so I want more damage professions to go with it. But as I said, the archer is a little bit more of a damage dealer. You play a backline supporting damage dealer in the sense of he's not your main damage dealer. He's more often a second, or depending on your build, even a third damage dealer. Or you just build him fully to work with animals and, you know, like I said, get the zoo or the farm going. So ultimately there's that. Again, my archer does damage, and that's how I play the archer in Wartales.